Hey guys, this is Tim. Hey, messing around on the internet, I've come across a couple of fishing forums, and there were some people on there that were curious on how to rig for the buoy 10 season down here in Astoria. And so I went on YouTube and seen what was on there for videos, and there wasn't a lot to choose from. So I thought, you know what the heck? Let me throw something together here and see if I can help somebody. So here we go. Bear with me. I'm just one person here trying to film, trying to get this message out, and so hopefully you guys can get something out of these. So here we go. We'll start with rods and reels. First thing I would say from just experience is anybody that's got the high modulus graphite rods, do yourself a favor, do your pocketbook a favor, keep them home. And the reason that I say that is when we fish down here, I typically fish leads off my boats. I fish 10.5 foot rods off the bows. They're typically running 20 ounces of lead. My mid-boat, midship rods are 9.5 foot rods, 16 ounces of lead. My stern rods, depending on how many people are around, how deep of water I'm fishing, 10 to 12 ounces, maybe 8s, but very rare. So here we go. That being said, high modulus graphite rods, like I said, do yourself a favor, do your pocketbook a favor, keep the wife off your back, keep them home. And the reason I say is when you're fighting a fish or trying to land a fish and you have that lead swinging around, with these small diameter rods, small diameter tips, they don't like one another. So and this is typically where they're going to break, and it's nothing good comes of it. So there it is. A 15-20 pound king just cost you in upwards of $300-400 possibly. So this is not a finesse fishery down here. These companies that produce these rods, I've got nothing bad to say about them. Llama Glass, Edge, G. Loomis, they build great rods. Their lower end rods, the Shimano Colaruses, the Llama Glass Classic Glasses, 15 to 30 pound. You know what? Those are great rods for down here. They're not their expensive ones. So you know what? If you do happen to break one of those rods, you know what? It might be a little easier to explain to the wife. So with that being said, do yourself a favor. Keep your high modulus graphite rods at home. So, all right, what are we going to do? We're going to start with what rods I use. I use my bow rods, 10.5 foot rods. They're a 15 to 30 pound test rod. They're nothing fancy. These rods, their whole life is going to be pulling around 20 ounces of lead. That's their job. So I'll show you how we rig them. And whether it's a bow rod or a side rod or a stern rod, they're all going to be rigged up virtually the same. So we'll start with this 10.5 foot bow rod, and like I said, they're all rigged the same. So I start with 65 pound test braid. I run Power Pro, personal preference. So come down, I run a bead. It's a soft bead. This one here is a soft bead. And it protects the eyelet in your tip top. So I run a soft bead there. I go to a sturgeon slider. Little sturgeon slider there. That sturgeon slider's got 16, 18 inches dropper. I run 15 pound test dropper. For the simple fact that if this lead hooks up on the bottom for some reason, I can break it off. I will also, on this 15 pound test leader, tie a knot in the center of it. So if that lead hangs up, that 15-pound test now comes to 7. Not very hard to break off if you hang up on the bottom. So, and then your clip for your lead. So, anyway, then we go to below our sturgeon slider is a bead. This bead here is to protect this knot. This knot right here goes to a chain bead, and it's a rolling chain bead. I tend to buy the best quality chain beads I can because I believe it. When you're trolling, this frees your bait up. It's going to take less effort for that bait to roll, so therefore I can slow my troll down. Whether it's true or not, it's just something that I tend to believe. So anyway, from there I go to 40 or 50-pound test maximum, 16, 18 inches. Reason 40-pound test, flashers, all that stuff, they're expensive. So I do 40-pound tests there. To my flasher, to another chain bead. Like I said, the more chain beads you can have, the less effort it takes for that bait to roll. The slower I can be, the better off my fishing is. So I'm not here to promote any companies, but I am going to say that I am partial to my short buzz flashers. An 8-inch flasher, even their 5.5s. They've treated me very well down here, and so I'm partial to my short buzz flashers. So anyway, 8-inch, 5.5-inch, doesn't matter. They both work well down here. To the back end of my flasher, another chain bead. Okay, we're going to go another 2 feet. 40-pound test, 50-pound test maximum, to a chain bead. Okay, then from that chain bead, we're going to go another 2.5 feet to my hooks. Set up as a mooching rig, 2-hook mooching rig. I personally like a slider for my hooks. The reason is for my different sizes of baits. You know, not all my baits that I get aren't the same size, so it gives me a little more flexibility there. I know some people, they don't like sliders. They say that they can break off. It's possible. I haven't had that experience. Maybe my time's coming, but quality line, quality hooks. I'm a firm believer in these 4-aught Gamakatsu wide gap finesse hooks. My hook ratio to my loss ratio is very good. I don't lose many fish. So we are a barbless fishery down here, so we need to pinch our barbs. So that being said, that's pretty much how our buoy tin fishing's rigged. And you know, and if you're going to rig up a spinner, pretty much the same flasher, 2.5 feet of line to a chain bead. The only thing we're going to do is those double mooching rigs. We're going to swap out with a coast lock snap and put on your spinner of choice. That being said, we're here July 3rd. The water's already 70, 71 degrees. I'm typically a bait fisherman. It takes me a long time to get away from my baits. With the water being so warm this year, I'm going to have to teach myself or retrain myself maybe to venture off to the spinners a little sooner. So that's it. That's how our terminal gear is. It's pretty simple. My biggest concern is we don't get too long. We don't get too long in our terminal gear, because when that happens, it's harder to land fish. It puts these rods in sometimes a bind that they don't like. That's when things go bad. And you start putting together a fishing trip with just gear and fuel and bait and stuff like that. This stuff gets expensive. So I see typically people, when they start using longer rods, they go to longer leaders. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can cost you. I mean, you know, so you don't want to put these rods into any tight binds or any bad positions. So especially with the 16 to 20 ounce leads, you know, swinging around. So anyway, we'll jump to the reels. This is a short deal on reels. A lot of quality reels out there. The Abu Garcias. For you left-handers, I know that the left-handed reels, there's not a lot of them out there. Your Okumas, they're all great reels. I personally like the Shimano 300 Dakotas, the line counters for down here. They fish my boat very well. They fit my rods well. They fit in my hands. You know, not a big guy, so they fit my process well. A lot of the guides down here, you know, when they're running 6 people, they run 500s for the Dakotas because of the line capacity. But they're not a necessity. So that being said, hopefully I've answered some of your questions, and you know, just remember that we are a barbless fisheries now on the Columbia River, and if it's your first time down here, do yourself a favor, do your homework. We're a big body of water out here. We're real close to the ocean, and you know, don't find yourself in a bad position. You know, learn the tides. Understand that when the wind starts picking up here, things get rough. So it's typically a morning fishery. You know, you can just about bet that when that northwest wind starts picking up, it's going to make it hard fishing conditions for the smaller boats. And with that being said, smaller boats, what rods do they run? You know, your windshield boats, your 18 to 20 footers, you see a lot of them down here. And you know, if I was a guy that had an 18 to 20 foot boat and I was going to buy some rods, what would I buy? Okay. Personally, I would probably stay away from the 10.5 footers. For the simple reason is it takes a lot of room to fish these 10.5 foot rods. I mean, they're a long rod. You know, you need a lot of real estate in your boat to be able to fish these things. And you, in an 18, 20 foot boat, you know, room is one thing that you don't have a lot of, especially when you start putting 2 or 3 people in there. And you start adding that amount of people and gear and whatnot, it makes it hard to fish these rods. It's a pain to try to get your fish close to your boat because you've got your rod, you know, you're backed up all the way to the other side of the boat, and you've got your rod, you've got your lead swinging around. It's just probably not a good idea to try to fish a 10.5 foot rod. It can be done, but like I said, you don't want to have to explain to your wife, honey, I just broke my brand new 10.5 foot rod, and I need another one. So for the 18 to 20 foot boats, you know, I would probably look more to the 8.5 foot, 9.5 foot rods, and those will be fine. Like I said, all my rods are 15 to 30 pound, medium heavy action. You know, your reels, my Dakotas. You know, some of the guys that I fish with that use the wrong hand, and they're left-handed. They're using the Abu Garcias. I think they're the 6501s or something that I'm not real familiar with those, but they've used them for years. So, you know, if you're gonna take the time to come down here and fish, you'll enjoy it. There'll be a lot of fish to be had. You know, bring your spinners, bring your bait, bring your kids. You know, make sure your kids get out there and do some fishing and get to enjoy it, because for the young kids, it's a joy for them to sometimes catch their first salmon. So.